Linux Action Show is created by Jupiter Broadcasting. It's sponsored by Ting. Go to last.ting.com to save off your first device or plan. And DigitalOcean. Go to digitalocean.com and use the promo code Here's the Thing, all one word like you're slurring it, and spin up your own Linux rig for free. And Linux Academy. Go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged and invest in your mind while saving some money. Welcome to Linux Action Show, episode 455. My name is Chris.
My name is Noah.
Noah, you know, we've got a great show today, and I think it's one that all sizes of Linux Action Show listener will like, olders, youngers, and in-betweens. We're going to talk about taking cheap PCs and getting a great Linux experience out of them. Now, we've got two different looks at this particular problem, and we'll tell you about the price points you can expect, and I think they're going to blow your mind on what you're going to get out of a computer if you're willing to go used or maybe slightly loved. We're going to see what we can do to put you in a slightly loved Linux laptop or desktop today on the Linux Action Show and how great it's going to be. Welcome to the show. Also, coming up in the news, we'll take a look at Plasma 5.9 and some new hardware, the new version of LibreOffice that finally has the ribbon menu. What? I'm not actually joking, but it's not as bad. It's not as bad as I just made it sound. We'll tell you about that. Plus, we've got some great feedback that I'm looking forward to. But before all of that, Noah, we have the powerful
Picks.
The powerful picks. And this one, our Runs Linux, our first pick this week, is sort of fitting right in with the theme of the show. This is a DIY $200 Linux laptop that obviously runs Linux. Actually, it's $240 with fully open source parts. At least, that's what they say. Now, full warning, it is an ARM laptop, so before you get too excited, it is a A64 64-bit Cortex or a Kairotex A53 processor. It's got an 11.6-inch LCD screen, 7,000 milliamp battery, which might not be bad with that hardware setup. Comes with 4 gig of flash, Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, and it weighs 2 pounds. You can also add components to it because it's a modular system. It has a micro SD slot as well as USB ports, power button, all that kind of stuff. But one of the things you could do with this thing is perhaps set up for a very specific scientific work case or a workload because of the modular components of this sucker. I pulled it up here, Noah. You can see the pieces. It's very thin. It is, I guess, probably pretty low power, low heat out of that ARM processor. So it almost looks like an old an old netbook.
Netbook, yeah.
Yeah, but just a lot thinner. And the neat thing is you start with this base quad-core ARM system and the 4 gig flash, but the rest is all assemble. It's all assemble yourself, add modules, so you can add all kinds of things. Now, they don't have all of the parts selling or all the parts shipping yet, but you can get the basic kit, just the base kit of the system that you build on top of for 225 euros. So, you can do the math there. But it's around 220, 240, I don't know, US dollars, somewhere in that range. And they say they could end up with pretty nice systems after you add the different components to it. They're going to be working on like special sensors, special VR components, not to run VR on itself, but for VR sensors and things like that that will be kind of just like almost Legoed onto this thing, onto the motherboard. So their motherboard has space where you add additional stuff. So the machine is called the Trace A64 Black, and it's the hacker-friendly modular laptop that runs Linux. For 225 euros, not too bad. Not too bad.
I like it.
And you know what? They say one day it may also run Android. I know that would really excite you, Noah. I know that would be really up your alley. To get that Linux off there and put Android on there, finally, right? Finally. But also a couple other things you can do. There's extra battery as modules. I'm just looking at some of the other things. Additional cooling. They have a lot more components that are in the works. And they think that this could also be a simple enough project that kids could assemble this laptop.
See, that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
More laptops that you can kind of build yourself would be really nice. I don't know. They may have a demo at FOSDEM, it looks like, that's going on this weekend. So that could be cool. If you're in FOSDEM, you might be able to. If you're watching this live at FOSDEM, you might be able to see it. Hey, speaking of, we got the elephant in the room, and I am super appreciative. Look we actually have a decent turnout in the jblive.tv chat room. It's Super Bowl Sunday, and we have a decent amount of people in there, right? Like, that's not bad. Like
they must care about the Super Bowl about as much as I do.
Well, it helps that we're streaming before the Super Bowl starts. That also helps. All right,
I didn't
Noah.
know. For all I know, the Super Bowl's going on right now.
You know what I like taking? I like taking like really complex graphical applications and breaking them down into badass command line applications. And I've got one of those coming up. So first I want to mention our first sponsor this week, and that is DigitalOcean. Use our promo code. Here's the thing. It's one word. You put it together, kind of like you're slurring it like some kind of jerk. You apply it to your account after you've created one, and you get a $10 credit. Now, you're cooking with gas at DigitalOcean because check out their pricing. It's really straightforward. For $5 a month, you can get a nice rig with 512 megabytes of RAM, 20 gigabyte SSD, terabyte of transfer, one core processor. But if you can also break down DigitalOcean hourly. Now, I don't even bother doing anything below 3 cents an hour when I'm testing because you get 2 gigs of RAM, a 2-core processor, a 40 gigabyte SSD, and 3 terabytes of transfer. Are you sensing the theme here? They're all SSD. And they combine it with a really intuitive, easy-to-use interface that has entire distributions and application stacks, if you like, ready to go. If you want to do a one-click config, you absolutely can, or you can build it from the ground up. They have snapshots that allow you to revert when you screw something up, and an API that's so simple to use, you could be a total noob and still figure out how to use it. DigitalOcean.com, use the promo code Here's the Thing, and while you're there, dig around on their community section because that's where you'll find a lot of really great documentation. And they take on like complicated stuff that you don't normally find really good current documentation on. Like here's one that was updated just 11 days ago. How to rewrite URLs using mod rewrite and Apache on Ubuntu. And one of the things I like to just point out is the formatting of this frickin' thing. If you're watching the video version, take a look up at that. Look how well that reads. That's some of the best formatted documentation, which makes it really easy to bust through. They have the sections completely laid out. Professional editors making it look nice because they take all of this stuff very seriously. From the performance to data centers all over the world, UI, the API, using Linux for the virtualizer, and their documentation. DigitalOcean.com, use our promo code Here's the Thing. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. Now, this one is called Jam. It is a Go program, and it takes Google Play Music and puts it on your console. So no more like WebTab or Electron app. It goes right into like your Quake terminal or your Wake terminal, whatever you're using. For like, I know you're huge on cloud services, so it has last.fm scrobbling is in there. You can search within artists in the database. You can populate a local database with local songs. And you can, I guess there might also be a web interface. I actually have not tried that. And if you use Google two-factor authentication, you won't have to generate like an app password for it. You can actually use two-factor Google authentication with this thing, which is really nice. You have to have Pulse Audio installed. So get your crap together if you don't have Pulse Audio. And if you're building it on your system, you will also need to have the Pulse Audio development package installed. And that's pretty much it. It builds really simple after that. So it's very simple. And Jam. That's it. Short and sweet. Take Google Play out of your web browser and put it on your console. How do you like that? Huh?
Anything that can tie into the cloud is high in my book.
Yeah, especially when it can tie your cloud service into another cloud service. Now you have microservice cloud services.
Nothing has me more excited.
I know. You're welcome. Now, when you're setting all of these accounts up, I want you to stay secure, Noah. I'm concerned about you, especially with as much cloud as you use. Yeah. That's why I want you to stay anonymous with Whonix. Whonix? I don't know how you say it. Whonix. Whonix? What do you think, Noah? Come on. Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Yeah, okay. Whonix. Yeah.
Whonix, yeah. So here's what it is. It's a Linux distribution.
No. It's
Whonix. It's Whonix. Of course it is. Of course it is. It's obvious if you're not busy in the middle doing a show. It's obvious it's Whonix. Whonix offers you the most secure way to surf the web. What? Yeah, it's a Linux desktop distro designed for advanced security and privacy. It realistically addresses attacks while maintaining usability. It makes online anonymity possible via fail-safe, automatic, and desktop-wide use of the Tor network. And it's using a heavily reconfigured Debian base to run inside multiple virtual machines, providing a substantial layer of protection from malware and IP leaks. It's pre-installed. Pre-configured applications are ready to use, and installing additional applications or personalized desktop will in no way jeopardize the user. Whonix is the only actively developed OS designed to run inside a VM paired with Tor. It only connects through Tor. DNS leaks are impossible, they say, based on their setup. Not even malware with root privileges can find the real user's IP address. It runs in a VM, so it basically runs on top of anything. But they give download links for Windows, Linux, OS 10, and Cube's OS too.
Nice.
Whonix.
Whonix.
Yeah, maybe when Bitcoin's over $1,000 a coin right now, maybe it's worth taking a few extra steps for the privacy.
I'm still saying that I'm waiting for a distro to come out for adult entertainment browsing. I'm telling you, that's going to be a thing. Like someday somebody's going to come out with it.
That must actually be a thing already because
it's not. I looked. I did. I was because after we had the discussion, I was like, it's got to be out there. It's not out there. It doesn't exist.
Well, you know what? You would probably want to start with Whonix as a base, right?
That's kind of my thought.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. So there you go. There is our picks. We would love to hear about cool distributions you're finding because we've just started our distro picks back up again, and you can submit them to linuxactionshow.reddit.com or email them in. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact and choose Linux Action Show from the drop-down. Yeah, past picks, all that stuff is at jupiterbroadcasting.com/last picks. All right, Noah, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Go to last.ting.com and get $25 off your Ting service, or if you bring a device with you, you'll get $25 in service credits. So if you're going to, get a device brand new from Ting, that's a great way to go, absolutely. But they got a GSM and CDMA network availability. They got a lot of options for you, so you might consider looking around in the drawer, bring a device over to Ting, get $25 in service credit, and then stand back and be amazed at how much that actually covers for Ting. It's incredible. And then to top it all off, there's no contracts, no early termination fees. And one of the things I think you'll appreciate the most, you only pay for what you use. Minutes, messages, megabytes, whatever you use is what you pay. It's $6 for a line. It's really simple, and that's why Noah and I pop off and on lines all the time. I mean, Noah definitely always, on the average, has more phone lines going than I do, but there was just the other day where I just activated a SIM. I had two, and now I only have one left. Now I only have one, so I'm watching for a sale. But I just activated the SIM and used it for the weekend, and it was perfect because we were going to a camping trip with the kids. It was great. And the nice thing about that is there's no fee for canceling the line, for turning it off. I just log into their dashboard, turn it on, turn it off. Last.ting.com, great customer service. Like the kind that actually helps solve the problem. You get to talk to them. GSM, CDMA networks, and tools for you to use from the device or on the web to manage your account. Also, congratulations to Ting for turning 5 years old. And they're doing 5 days of giveaways. And they're just getting started, so you can still get in on it. That's probably going to be, by the time you're watching this, you could probably get it on a Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. So if you want to find out more, go to last.ting.com to support the show. And then click over on their blog. They're giving away phones. That's pretty awesome. And happy birthday to Ting for turning 5. Last.ting.com. All right, well, I'm sure you're really excited, Noah, about our first news story this week. I bet you're thrilled about the release of Plasma 5.9. A brand new, shiny Plasma desktop's out. And instead of me, you know what, Noah, instead of me sitting here telling you what's new, how about me from the past tells you what's new? After a few months of intensive work, the KDE community is pleased to announce Plasma 5.9, which brings many improvements and features to your desktop. Global menu bars for applications have returned and can be used with either a desktop panel showing the menu or neatly tucked away in the window bar. Due to popular demand, we implemented switching between Windows and Task Manager using the new Meta key plus a number key shortcuts for heavy multitasking. It is now possible to create comprehensive look and feel desktop themes that will download all the extras needed from the KDE store, such as color schemes and Plasma themes. A utility called Look and Feel Explorer was added to create these Plasma themes and to ease publication on the KDE store. There's a more compact and beautiful design for scroll bars in the Breeze style, giving our applications a sleek and modern look. KRunner actions, such as run in terminal and opening containing folder, are now also shown for the KRunner-powered search results in application menus. Task Manager tooltips have been redesigned to provide more information while being significantly more compact. Plasma notifications now support interactive previews, which you can drag from the notification pop-up directly into a chat window, an email composer, or a web browser form. It's now possible to group together multiple desktop widgets in a single tabbed interface. That's cool too. Applications currently playing audio are marked in the Task Manager, similar to how it's done in modern web browsers, so you can easily mute them.
I love that.
You can now add widgets to your desktop straight from the full-screen application dashboard launcher. System Settings has a new module for configuring network connections with a fresh new look. The icon widget sees the return of a settings dialog, so you can now change the icon, label text, working directory, and other properties. If you enjoy using Plasma, please consider donating to KDE so that we can work together to make the best free software possible. So it's actually a phenomenal release. My favorite ones are the Task Manager audio stuff, obviously big. Drag and drop interactive notifications is great because I take a lot of screenshots for the show notes. That's that's one of my favorite. I don't really get excited by things like global menu. And things like, the Wayland improvements, I'm sure I will eventually get excited about those kinds of things. But I've been running Plasma 5, now 5.9, for the last, I think it was just a little bit before I recorded that video. So, it's been 3 weeks. I don't know. I've been running it on my main system. No, it must be 2 weeks. I don't know, but it's been running great. And I just recently got the update to 5.9. And later on in the show, I'm going to talk a little more about Neon. So it's out, it's new, and it's coming to distros near you. I think it just hit Arch Stable. I think it's in the SUSE, whichever one gets you the Tumbleweed or whatever, which gets you the fastest packages. And obviously, it's in Neon as well. And to kind of bookend this announcement, there's also announcement of the KDE Slimbook, which is a laptop for KDE fans. So they're dropping a lot of stuff. They're dropping a ton of stuff here. And it comes preloaded with KDE Neon. And what was the price? I figured out, I don't think it's available even to order in the US possibly, but if you could, the i5 version would be 786 US greenbacks, and the i7 would be 915 US greenbacks. So not super crazy cheap, but they're pretty nice looking rigs. i5 and i7, thin as hell, metal case, 2 USB 3.0 ports, 4 gigs of RAM, and 120 gigabyte SSD. So the price.
What's the screen? Is it 1080p display?
Yeah. Okay. 13.3 inch 1080p. So that's a sweet spot for you.
Perfect. Yes, it is.
This would be a great machine for you.
Yes, it would.
It's just a little expensive for what you get, although you're also likely supporting.
You think so?
800 and, well, so what did I say it was for the i7? The i7 is
$915. $915
for
the i7, yeah.
For 4 gigs of RAM and 120 gig SSD.
Yeah.
Now you put 16 gigs of RAM in that thing and a 256. I'm starting to feel a little better. But at the same time, you're also supporting the project in theory too. So there's that's kind of worth it.
Yeah.
I think their intent really is to not sell a ton of these from sort of what I was reading, but they wrote that they think that having a piece of hardware like this, they say make the software work as smoothly as possible. One of the things they talk about in this article at .kde.org is there's going to be some problems probably in the different layers, but when they have a much clearer control and understanding of the hardware layer, they think that there's going to be just valuable feedback in some of the developers having some of these machines because they can rule out some of those variables and really figure out, okay, is this a problem in the Plasma desktop, or is this a problem in the driver level, or is this a hardware issue? And so I think that's the bigger picture intent behind this laptop, not to like take the Chromebook on or something. It's not like it's some crazy ambitious thing. That's kind of my reading of this. And also just to make something available for KDE fans that comes branded with KDE on it and Neon pre-installed, which is, it's always cool as a distro when you can get get a hardware partner. So you can put up to 16 gigs of RAM in this thing. It has the Intel Graphics HD 520. It is aluminum. So this doesn't really fit the theme of today's episode, but it shows you an example of sort of a higher end what you might get. And so when we're gonna move into the second half of the show and we start talking about these cheaper Linux computers that are demonstrably cheaper than this machine, it'll be interesting to kind of keep in our mind a comparison of performance ratio. So this next story is interesting because it's a big release for LibreOffice version 5.3, and it's also where you can get your hands on the new menu interface. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about the under the hood stuff that I think is going to matter to all LibreOffice users and why you'd probably want to encourage like your clients, Noah, to upgrade potentially. LibreOffice 5.3 has a number of interesting features, but the one I like a lot is the cross-platform text layout engine that uses HarfBuzz for consistent text layout on all platforms, which includes the web. So if you use LibreOffice Online or you use LibreOffice on Windows or Linux, it all renders using the same exact HarfBuzz engine, which has not always been the case, and why it's sometimes led to slight differences in docs when you go across platforms, which is extremely frustrating, at least in the past for me with some of my clients. So it's a kind of a big deal. But it also has some new under-the-hood improvements that are like massive for the project themselves. They say it translates into an open source Office suite, which is easier to develop. It's going to be easier to maintain and easier to debug. And they say, we admit this is not visible to end users, but is extremely important for us, and it's extremely important for their enterprise deployments, which I thought was interesting. And then they have updates to LibreOffice Online. LibreOffice 5.3 features the first source release of LibreOffice Online, which is great, and the rendering fidelity is excellent. And you can also get the latest builds of LibreOffice Online as Docker images. Starting with the 5.3 family, LibreOffice UI has been extended with the addition of an experimental notebook bar, which offers another UI addition to the default UI. The notebook bar, which is kind of like a one UI. I'll see if I can find a screenshot of it because I don't think I have it installed on this machine. What do you think of this, Noah? Have you seen it?
I don't like it. I think that LibreOffice for the long time has been kind of the safe haven to get away from stuff like that, a place for people to go to get consistency and what they were used to. And the reality is word processors, spreadsheets, presentations, I don't think they need to be sexy. I don't think they need to be, intuitive, all that nonsense. They're workhorses. They're utility software. It's software that you go to get something done. And so the less complicated, the less, the less convoluted things are, the better. Just if you have just a,
is there no room for improvement though? Is there no room for improvement?
You know what? I really don't. I mean,
here it is. It's not that actually. Look at that. It's not that offensive. It's actually sort of functional.
I guess.
I don't. I mean, I'd say it's not as dramatic as the ribbon. It's somewhere in between. It's not as fancy. It's not as glossy. Because like when the ribbon first came out, there was like blue gradients in it. It had like a blue-white gradient and all that.
Yeah, it ate up a lot of screen real estate.
Yeah, it did. This does take up some screen real estate, which I'm not a huge fan of in a 16 by or in a wide aspect ratio layout. I don't like taking space at the top and the bottom a lot.
Right.
I feel like you're coming down on the side of 100% curmudgeon, though.
I'm coming down on the side of the most efficient use of screen real estate. The most efficient place is to have, like 4 to 10 pixels or whatever up the top, and you have the individual menus. And because those are limited, then we break those out into submenus.
So I believe, they haven't said anything, but I don't believe the intent is to turn it on by default.
That's good.
So you'll still have your traditional productivity tools. Office 2003-esque layout, which maybe is the best for this kind of tool. I don't know. But so yes, this is probably the most quote unquote talked about feature of LibreOffice. I personally feel like the rendering engine's a huge deal, and probably the source code cleanup too. That's probably for this project probably a really big deal. So that's awesome. They got a bunch of volunteers to help bang all that out. And that's what's so awesome about open source. I was trying to see if they had any numbers on, here we go. Here's the numbers. In 6 years, they've attracted over 1,100 new developers, and they have an average of 300 people active on the source code. So there you go. Well, congratulations to them, and what do you think about that? They put out LibreOffice Online, which might be interesting for you and I to play with for show prep.
Yeah, I'm very excited. In fact, I think I did a little bit of a teenage girl scream at you earlier this week.
Yeah.
Nextcloud with collaborative editing and LibreOffice Online, both of those things excite me a lot. I think that
Nextcloud integrated Collabora Online, and they in the latest. Are you on Nextcloud? What version are you on? 11?
I have two. I have one that I actually use, and then one I'm playing with. The one I'm playing with is whatever the latest version of Nextcloud is that has the collaborative Office stuff. My actual production thing I'm still using is actually OwnCloud, and I haven't switched it over yet because it was like the first OwnCloud instance I ever did that I've never had a problem with syncing, and I'm afraid to touch it.
Very good. Well, if you'd like to submit a story to the show, you can do that at Linux Action Show. In fact, I was just checking how many. You can go and find out. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Go there and submit a story. If you'd like to see more behind-the-scenes stuff like the productions of these here shows, check out my YouTube channel. I got a project over there I've been working on. Last couple of weeks have been some great releases too. YouTube.com/Chris Fisher. It's also a lot of my personal stuff, so fair warning. But there is some behind-the-scenes production stuff as well. All right, Noah, that's all the news for this week. How cheap can you get? And I'm going to say cheap. How cheap can you get and still have a great Linux experience? This is a challenge that Noah and I took on today. And you'll see. Noah's going for the inexpensive laptop, and I went for cheap. So we'll get into this and tell you all about our experiences and how it made me question my entire reality. But first, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there, support the show, and sign up for a free 7-day trial of the Linux Academy teaching platform. A bunch of Linux enthusiasts, developers, and educators came together to create a community around educating all of us on how to use Linux. From the itsy-bitsy, itty-biggity details, yes, that's a real thing, all the way up to the big abstract stuff. They have in-depth, self-paced courses, hands-on scenario-based labs, real humans that give you help, like actual instructors that know the material, learning paths if you want content planned by instructors, or nuggets when you just want to deep dive into a single topic. If you're going for the certs, they've got great courseware on that, study tools and guides and lesson audio that you can take with you, iOS and Android apps for doing it on the go. Yeah, that's right. Practice exams and quizzes to prepare for the certs and the tests to make sure you really know your stuff. And the thing I think I've probably haven't really mentioned, but they've been working on a new feature. I think I'll just mention it to you real quick because I was digging through here. It came out a little bit ago, and I just don't really think I passed it along. But they have for these labs, they have you SSH into the servers, so that way you get like a full, nice, real system, and it's a great way to learn because it gives you real world experience. Well, one of the things they're rolling out now is an in the browser SSH terminal, which is pretty nice. They're rolling it out and testing. You can give them feedback on that. I've always just traditionally used the SSH client on my desktop, but I could see how this would be a really nice way, especially if you're just, on the 7-day free trial, just jumping in real quick. So if you're a Linux Academy customer already, you can already take advantage of that. Or just go over to linuxacademy.com/unplugged and sign up for the platform. They'll teach you more about Linux. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Mr. Noah, is there any big disclaimers we need to make before I just fire off the first video here?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because Noah's going to take us for a ride down the inexpensive lane of Linux.
Both Chris and myself have our fair share of System 76 computers. In fact, the very first machine that ran this studio was a System 76 Wild Dog. It's still in production use, as is my Lemur, as Chris would say. I use it every day for a number of different things. But there are some times where you might not be able to afford the quality that System 76 produces, as well as maybe you need some features that their lineup doesn't offer. And so this week we're going to take a look at buying a computer on a budget. Now, Chris is going to be reviewing a very nice computer, so I thought I'd take the opposite end of the extreme. See, right now I'm in this kind of weird transition period because as we transition from Skylake to Kaby Lake, I am going to get rid of all of my Skylake machines and sell them for whatever I can get for them, and then buy Kaby Lake when it comes out. But that's going to leave kind of a couple of months where until the new lineup of everyone comes out, I'm not going to have a machine to use, so I needed to find a reasonably powerful computer that could get me through a couple of months. Now, my base requirements are this. I need at least a Core i5 as late of generation as possible. I need at least 8 gigs of RAM, and I need a 1080p display. So, I'm going shopping. Okay, so I've done a little bit of research, and here's what I've come up with. Boom! The HP 15AY013NR 15.6-inch Full HD 6th generation Core i5 with 8 gigs of RAM and a 128 gig SSD. and it, comes with some malware, but, get rid of that. So I did a little bit more research. This particular device is available. Well, they don't show it on here, but this particular it's available in a couple different variants. And so one of the variants is with the 128 SSD. Now you can knock $80 off if you get the version with the 1 terabyte spinning disk, and I found that version on sale on eBay, and the bid's up to I think $165 right now. And so I'm going to use a service called Bidnapper, because the auction ends like the middle of the night or something. I'm going to use a service called Bidnapper, which is going to automatically place my bid, and we're going to bid like $225, something like that. And if I can win it for about that, I'll take the used one, because the guy said he only used it for a couple of months, so it seems like it's gently used, seems like it'd be a really great deal. If that doesn't work, then I'll come back and look at seeing if we can buy the new one. But thinking that's what we're going to do here.
My laptop has arrived and I'm excited to show it to you. Now, just as a reminder, this is an HP 15-inch laptop with a 1080p display, a 6000 series i5 processor, and I was able to get it for just around $200, and it was like $24 shipping or something like that. And then also I spent an additional $79 on an SSD for this. Now this has a SanDisk SSD that I'm using on this particular system. Really like SanDisk. My preference is always a Samsung 850 Pro or 860 Pro, but 850 I think is the latest one, 850 Pro, but they sometimes, like for example, Best Buy was out of stock and the computer came and I just wanted to get going. Now, as far as what it took to actually get Linux on this computer, it's pretty straightforward. Take out all the screws on the bottom, including there are some that you might not see right here on the back. There's these two little feet, and if you have to peel this little rubber thing off, and then behind there are screws. Take out all the screws on the back of the computer, and then you can pull the optical drive out, which just slides out. I don't even know why they have an optical drive, but pull the optical drive out and then you're able to get to the motherboard and the RAM and all that good stuff. None of it seems to be soldered on, so that was encouraging, and I can actually upgrade it to 16 gigs of RAM, it looks like. Pulled the hard drive out, put an SSD in, screwed it back down, so all in all I'm into this thing for a little under $400, high 300, somewhere in there. And I think it's going to be a really great machine. Now, I haven't done a ton of testing with it. I've only been using it for a couple of hours. I kind of wanted to get into the studio and start filming on it, but I got a Ubuntu 16.04 LTS set up on it. I have my YubiKey set up, and I've checked basic functionality like Wi-Fi and stuff like that. And I'm going to show you here exactly what it's doing. So I've just unlocked it and I've kind of signed in. So you can see, again, 1080p display, looks really, really sharp, looks really, really good. The trackpad, it doesn't have a click pad, it actually has two physical buttons, so if that's something you really like, it's for you. Not a backlit keyboard. I'm also not a fan of the fact that because of the trackpad, it offsets everything, so the trackpad does not line up in the center of the computer. It's kind of off to one side. That's never my preference, and I also don't really like 15-inch machines. I think they're too big, they're difficult to travel with, and that kind of thing. Now, I got this laptop, let's see here, it is 8 o'clock, and it arrived at my house around 6, I'd say. And so, or no, a little earlier than that, maybe 5-ish, because then it took me about an hour to get get everything set up. So I've had it on for about 3 hours, and I am at 86%, it looks like, battery life. So, and not a very big battery. It is removable, but it's just the back here, this little strip here, this is the battery, and these little latches unlock and it comes off. So it is a user replaceable battery, which is kind of nice. Actual performance of the computer, I'm pretty impressed. If I launch, and this is a little hard to do upside down, but if I launch Firefox, from the time I hit the enter key, it pops up. Not quite as fast as my PCIe drive, but definitely usable for a couple of months. After I get done here on the air, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking all of this footage and editing it on this machine. So I'll actually have, on Sunday, I'll be able to tell you kind of how the entire segment goes, how it handled video production and stuff like that. I did try it with OBS. Seems to work very, very well. I have a little USB capture card, and I was able to capture footage with it, no problem. As far as build quality, I give it a 7 out of 10, maybe. It's all plastic. It looks like metal. It looks aluminum, so it looks nice to the touch. And as you can see here, it already has marked up just a little bit, just scratching, and that's just from me playing with it a little bit. And right here too, it kind of got marked up. So It's a plastic. It's a plastic computer. You can tell. It's on the lower end. But as far as function, I think inside it's a great machine. Some of the other things I've done, I've run VirtualBox on it. Of course, my go-to silver standards are, Firefox, Thunderbird, a terminal. I use Quake, and Telegram. And lately, I'm adding to that Simple Help. Now, I've done a number of Simple Help sessions on this, and I can tell you that I have used other machines that have a lower resolution, and trying to do remote support, especially when you're supporting 2 or more monitors, almost impossible if you don't have higher than 1366 by 768. So the 1080p display works very nice. Webcam worked right out of the box. Wi-Fi worked right out of the box. Bluetooth worked right out of the box. Sound worked right out of the box. Suspend worked right out of the box. Literally nothing I had to tweak or do to get this to work. Obviously, because it's Ubuntu, Wi-Fi is going to stop working here and there. I'm prepared for that. I have a script. As to why I went with Ubuntu rather than Antergos, I have been running into more and more little issues with Antergos. Not enough that I'm willing to take it off my actual main laptop at the moment, but more issues that I'm comfortable going, if I'm going fresh, that I was comfortable going back to Antergos. I might post a list of those and see if the chat room has some answers. I don't want to necessarily rag on the distro because it still boots and it still has Wi-Fi, and so that's 2 things up from Ubuntu. I'm going to go back to Ubuntu for a little bit, and I'm going to run it on here and see how this system works. So I'll keep you guys updated, but overall, I'm very, very impressed. I have the exact model in the show notes. I bought this one secondhand. It was gently used. The guy only had it for a couple of months. But and again, I got it for the actual cost of the computer was just a little under $200, and then add shipping and the SSD that I upgraded in there, and I'm just under $400. So excellent computer, gives definitely 2 thumbs straight up. If you're looking for a budget laptop that you need to milk every bit of performance and get every last dime of your money worth, this is your machine right here. So Chris brought up that one of the things I should have done really to stress test the machine a little bit more is get Chrome open. I don't really use Chrome, but we'll give it a shot. So right now, as you can see here, I have Netflix playing in this tab. I have a bad lip reading of the NFL playing in that tab. I have If You Laugh, You Lose. Of course, I have my favorite show in the world, this Bizda Now, which is about some crappy Linux ripoff. And then, of course, Altispeed. I have celebrities read mean tweets and 50 amazing facts that blow your mind. I'm Googling Jupiter Broadcasting, have some Google tabs, have Gmail open, Twitter open. Of course, I have getfirefox.com because everyone should be at that website if you're in Chrome. And I'm looking at some laptops on Amazon, and I'm looking at some laptops on eBay. And then, actually, while I'm at it, I said I would talk about editing the segment. And so while I have all that running in Chrome, I guess I'll go ahead and open this project up. And let's see here. Let's see what this looks like. Let's see. Let's go back to my good camera. Dare I turn the volume on? I'm kind of afraid to turn the volume on because of what's going to happen. But it looks like I can jump around. I can scrub. It's a little sticky. Actually, a lot sticky. It's a lot sticky. It was not doing that before I had Chrome open. So I guess don't try and edit video with like a bazillion tab Chrome's open. But as far as Chrome itself goes, it doesn't seem to be a problem browsing the internet at all. This seems to play. The video seems to be smooth, and browsing seems to be smooth. So I think it handles Chrome just fine. Apparently, it just can't edit video while doing that. So that's kind of a brief look at how the laptop functions with Chrome.
Nice. If you're looking for a really cheap laptop, a low-cost laptop, that could be a really good way to go. So I took another tact on this because I figured that probably covers people looking for an actual functional laptop that's not going to be falling apart on them, that still has decent battery life and stuff like that. I wanted to take the desktop PC because I felt like you could probably get a lot more out of the desktop PC than you could for the laptop. And so I'll save more details for after my clip. But I'll set it up with this. The computer I am featuring in this clip is 10 years old and could be purchased right now. There's a couple of them on eBay for $80. So I was really, I'll say after I say that, this is an $80 computer that you will probably want to make a few modifications to, which we'll talk about after this clip plays. But the base cost is $80, and I was blown away with the performance I got for a system at that cost level. Okay guys, for my cheap Linux PC, I wanted to go with a desktop system, something maybe I could buy used off of eBay for my kids, something simple that's not a huge investment, but would still get you a great return. And so I picked a system that is super near and dear to my heart. It was one of my first commercial Linux rigs I ever bought. I gotta say, it's sort of a disaster in there. You can see there's like cardboard that was in here to prop up the drive. This SSD is just loose. I guess I should also mount that drive. I should probably get that mounted. Anyways, but it fired right up. No problems after years of inactivity running Linux. Love this old PC. It was the Dell XPS 410, one of their first computers they sold running Linux. Still a total champ. Look, I'm looking at what I used to use back in the day. Thunderbird, Pigeon, GIMP. What's this? I don't even know. Oh, that's a game. T-Worlds, yep, T-Worlds. Hotbot Twitter client, Vivalda, Spider Oak Dropbox, Access Pro. I don't even know what's going on with this thing. Wonder what version this is. There we go. It was an old Ubuntu 12.10. It's got 4 gigs of RAM, an Intel Core 2 quad, Q6600 at 2.4 gigahertz, and it's got 2 drives, although it looks like it's running off the spinning disk right now. Oh, what does it say it's got for graphics? That doesn't tell me much. All right, I'm going to get this thing reloaded with modern Linux and see how it does. This is all a big test, so my distribution of choice for this particular test is going to be KDE Neon Current. What? Yeah, I'm going to do KDE Neon Current specifically because my thesis is I'll have a decent graphics card in this thing since it's a standalone dedicated graphics, and I'll use KWin to offload a lot of the window work to the GPU, leaving the slightly older CPU available for the things I want it to do. That's my theory, at least. We'll see. So I'm downloading the current ISO of Neon right now. I'm really thankful that the CPU in this older rig, this XPS 410, is 64-bit. I think that opens the door up quite a bit for me. This monster has a Radeon 5830 in it. I haven't set up a Radeon graphics card in a long time, and this used to be part of the Bitcoin mining setup. Still works, though. This old Dell is old enough that I wasn't actually sure, actually I'm still not, I suppose, if Neon will boot. It's doing the first boot right now. Generally, I'm actually pretty optimistic. The more I use this computer, I'm really impressed with the performance of it. And I found a used, same exact machine on eBay for an unbelievable price. Hey, there's our first boot. You just watched that thing boot from post all the way up to the desktop. That's not that bad. That wasn't that bad. Let's mess around with the system and see what performance is like. Jeez. Holy crap, guys. I have 0 complaints about performance. You know, the SSD is definitely helping. There's a few things I want to set up, maybe get some applications installed, and really start to use it. This is just fine, though. Look at that. VLC just flew right open. I'm installing Google Chrome right now, and it requires 7 dependencies. Internet connection here is pretty good, so this is kind of an interesting benchmark to see how this machine performs while installing software. And while that goes, I'm going to use my system in the background. So I'll go about, let's go change some settings. Huh. Look at that, it's just bouncing right around while it's installing software in the background. I mean, not unusual for a nice modern day system, an i5, i7. But I'm pretty impressed. And remember, we're dealing with 4 gigs of RAM here too. And our software, oh, it's been done. Look at that, it's already finished. Now we have Chrome. Wow, that fired right up. Up now, I'm installing the updates. I've got Chrome syncing my massive Chrome profile in the background, and I'm keeping an eye on CPU usage, which has peaked a bit, but is now settled down as everything's sort of just doing its own little thing, and it's all background processes right now. Once I get all of these updates loaded, my plan is to install KDE Live and attempt to edit this here video on this here computer. Well, pretty much at this point, I'm just trying to throw the damn thing to justify all of the money I spend on these 6-core 32 gig RAM systems with PCIe SSDs, because right now I'm installing updates and I'm watching Star Trek Voyager via Netflix in Chrome. That's, for a computer that costs this much, I can't really ask for a lot more. And of course, you could get different results if you interchange some of the parts. Like you could put a different capacity hard drive in here. You could put a large, in comparison, you could put a large video card. There's something like an NVIDIA, even a 900 series would be a great upgrade for this machine and still completely compatible. So I really like the idea of a desktop. Obviously, a lot of you out there want a laptop, but I think if you really want the ultimate value with a low-cost machine and you can do desktop, go for it. Because look at this, guys. This is the latest KDE Neon desktop running the latest and greatest version of KDE with Netflix running in the Chrome tab. I'm not saying it's perfect, but let's bring up the SysGuard here just so you can kind of get an idea of the load. I mean, the system is handling it, and you can see that loaded just fine as well. It's not like it's unusable. I'm able to launch the menu, open up these applications, and the CPU load is pretty serious. I've got 44% on CPU 1, 40% on CPU 2, 30 on CPU 3, 25 to 15% on CPU 4. So it's definitely taking advantage of the 4 cores, and there's no hyperthreading, but it's getting the job done. It's getting the job done. Now I'm going to throw KDE Live on there, and you'll have to wait to find out how that went.
He's also using under 2 gigs of RAM. With all of that going, under 2 gigs of RAM. Now, I'm sure eventually Chrome would find a way to screw that up.
And so installing KDE Live went just really simple. Editing under KDE Live went pretty good until I dropped the last 2 clips on the timeline. I made it all really simple. It was all really just like cut stuff. There was no like special like crazy things to edit there. And I really think what the problem was is that KDE Live was having a hard time reading the entire timeline once I had all the clips on there, but I was able to work through it and export the video out. And I wouldn't say it's the most amazing video I ever made. I did end up bringing it into another editor to fix one small thing, but the whole end-to-end piece was cut together under KDE Live on a computer that's 10 years old. I admit that having a dedicated graphics card in there that's decent enough is part of it, and having the SSD in there is the huge thing. But part of my suggestion to you is, if you go with a desktop PC that's roughly this general configuration, this was a Dimension 9200 essentially. So if you get something around that configuration with standardized parts, you could probably pick it up for a pretty good price, whatever it is. These Intel quad-core, what did I say? I forget what I said it was, but that quad-core processor, it's not the latest and greatest. It's a Core 2 generation, but holy crap. Like, it really handled just about everything I threw at it. And I don't know, how much would a decent SSD cost, Noah? Like something you wouldn't mind throwing in a rig?
$49, $40.
Yeah, for like 100.
And I'm in the process of trying to accumulate all that in the show notes. But everyone is asking, where do you buy these? Where do you buy these? Where do you get SanDisk, man? SanDisk. You go to Best Buy and they have the 128 gig SanDisk SSDs. They start at $40. I mean, and you get the 256 for like 70 or something like that.
And this whole thing isn't about building out the most expensive rockin' machine and making sure you get the SSD that has the highest throughput. It's more about building a system that's pretty surprisingly usable for an incredible budget. And I walked away from this entire experience going, well, geez, I think this is what I would do. Like if I wanted to get another PC for my kids, or even really for myself, if it's a machine that I'm not trying to do like an HD video call on, right?
Right.
If I'm not trying if I was going to edit.
You need to edit show notes. Maybe you want one just to try in a single app out or something.
Sure. Yeah. Or if I'm watching video on it or something like that. But I'm not editing video. That was really pushing it. I was not super thrilled with that, and I didn't even bother encoding it on the machine, just because I honestly just wanted to get it ready for this segment. It probably would have got it done, but I just didn't have time. I think I walked away going, holy crap! Why I've been so concerned about tons of RAM and tons of fast hard drive for like these one types of work cases I get into. And then I throw KDE Plasma, the Plasma 5.9. It's called Neon User Edition. I just went and got the current ISO. That distro, Neon, is great. And Plasma Desktop is like, it felt nearly as fast as it does on my high-end machine. Like, it really was impressive. That's the other thing I walked away from this is consider if you build a low-end Linux rig that has at least a decent graphics card in it, and decent is obviously could be several generations old at this point. Really, maybe consider you don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to go with a very simple low-end desktop if you don't want to. I admit a lot of us just enjoy them and like them. Every time we do a segment like this, people say XFCE, LXQT, LXDE. Those are all, there's lots of them out there. They're all really great. I'm just saying, if you get locked into this mindset, like when I first sat down to do this segment, I was going to do like Ubuntu, or I was going to do a really low-end Linux desktop to try to, that would be where I'd eke out my performance, is I'd eke it out from the desk. That is ridiculous.
It's not. No, it's not. No, maybe on that particular system, but there is a point. I've got a Pentium 4 machine downstairs that I use. And I'm telling you,
if you didn't have the video card, right? Sure. Or if you were running on like a 5400 RPM drive.
You are eking performance out of it by using some of those lower end desktops.
But if you buy accordingly, and what I think I'm taking away from this is accordingly no longer has to be that extravagant. The base system's $80. You could put it like a $50 to $90 video card in the thing, but $125 SSD in there. You'd have a great system that may last 5 years. I mean, this thing's already lasted 10 years, and it fired right up. It just fired right up. It's awesome. I just love it. I love it. I love how it fires right up and it takes you back in time to an old setup, like Ubuntu 12.10. Wow, look at this. Yeah, this is great. Oh, yeah, this is when I was using Splashtop. Oh, yeah, that's right. So that's pretty fun, too. And for you got a really decent laptop for around $400.
Yeah, I mean, this is the true asset.
You could take that to school. You could use that, as a...
I'm going to live on this machine for the next, through March. So, it's gonna get put through its paces.
Huh. Yeah, and so I walk away with this saying a big plug to the obvious work that the Plasma desktop has gone through to make it efficient, and to the Neon folks, because grabbing Neon Current and just throwing that on my machine was a really great experience. Getting 5.9 up and going on that rig really quick. I liked that a lot. So just all of this went way better than I expected. I thought your laptop would be kind of junky, and it was actually pretty nice. I thought my desktop would be freaking unusable once I loaded Chrome. I thought that would be it. I thought that would be the tipping point, is I'd load up a couple of tabs in Chrome, and I'd be SOL. And I'm sure eventually...
nobody ever says that about Firefox.
And your Chrome, because Firefox, don't even get me. Your Chrome, you had like a lot of stuff up in those tabs.
I did.
Yeah, they're really hard.
I just found out I can't edit AVC HD footage while having all that stuff open in Chrome.
So that is the Linux Action Show's look at getting a great Linux experience on some low-end hardware. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But before we go, we got emails to get into. We got Noah with a question over there. And we got to point you over the direction of System 76 if you're looking for a nice high-end rig that runs Linux without any issues. No scrounging around on eBay required. System76.com. Hey, did you notice that their Lemur was recently updated with 7th generation Intel processors? 7th gen Intel processors, USB-C type port, and 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM in this little guy. That's a killer system. Holy crap, with the Kaby Lake over there. System76.com. Go over there, pick out a desktop, a laptop, or maybe even a GPU server. And when you're checking out, tell them that Noah switched you to Linux. I know you already. I know that. I know. That's not the point. Just do it. System76.com. Now with the Lemur Kaby Lake edition. That's very fancy. Very, very fancy. Okay, Noah, do you want to, before we get into the email sack itself, why don't you tell us about your plight? What's your deal, dude?
So we have a laptop that I am trying to get ready for a very important task starting Monday evening. So that's like 24 hours from right this minute as we air this thing live, and I need some help. And so basically, and I have all of the information in the show notes, and I'm going to dump it in the chat room momentarily. So if you're watching live, because really you're the only people that really get to take advantage of this, I'm willing to pay somebody if somebody can fix this for me. Essentially, the trackpad inside of this Asus Republic of Gamers laptop has a trackpad that we need a kernel patch applied to get the trackpad buttons to work correctly. Basically, what happens is when you put your finger on the trackpad, if you take your finger off the trackpad and press on the actual physical buttons, neither one of them work. If you put your finger back on the trackpad and then click, the left button works, but the right button doesn't. If you put two fingers on the trackpad and click with the left button, the right click works. So it thinks it's kind of like one of those touchpad things. It's not correctly identifying it or whatever. We have done a ton of research and have all of the information that we have come across, as well as the bug posts and how to fix it. And I even think we have a link to the actual code that we need to patch into the kernel, but that's above Noah's head. So if there's anyone that's interested in doing that, send me a quote, what you would want to come help me with this problem, either on Twitter at Kernel Linux, on Telegram at Kernel Linux, or via email, noah@jupiterbroadcasting.com. And I'll hang around the chat room for a couple minutes after the show. If you could help me, I would be very, very helpful. After Monday, I don't really care. If you want to send me an email, you can, but at that point, it's not really worth much to me to fix it, because I'll have already come up with another solution, other than satisfying the curiosity of myself and anyone on the show. So anyone has an interest in helping and making a little money on the side, let me know.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Paul D writes in with another bulletproof Linux suggestion. I love this. He says, my suggestion for your bulletproof Linux setup is to stick with Arch, use what you know and love, but build it on a file system that supports snapshots. I've heard this from a couple of people. He uses ZFS. He does snapshotting every day, all day. He says, I rebuilt my main system just before Christmas on ZFS, and some weeks later, in an afterthought, enabled daily snapshots. The very next day, I did something silly while browsing, clicked on a dodgy link, and started having windows opening by themselves. The solution? I log out, drop to a terminal, issue a single ZFS rollback command, and my home partition was restored to how it was when I booted that day. Arch is pretty stable despite being rolling. Providing you reboot when you update and follow the Arch announcement list, you won't have any issues. I also only update monthly, as I can't see the point in doing so more frequently for a system that you want to keep stable. There you go. That's a good one. Paul, I like your idea a lot. I am very tempted right now to do Plasma 5.9 on Arch. The only thing is if you really want a really stable system, my experience tells me if you're on a rolling distro, you are probably better off with a more simple desktop environment, which is what sort of made me inclined to look into Neon LTS, which I still might consider, but that's a good point. Paul, it's still something that's probably on my list as a potential route to go. You want to take Mark's?
Sure. Mark writes in and he says, hello, Lass. I catch Lass podcast every week, but now I could use some assistance. I have an Oryx Pro 17.3 inch with 32 gigabytes of RAM, a 512 SSD, and a 1 terabyte 7200 RPM drive with an 8 gigabyte GTX 1070 NVIDIA GPU. That is a sweet laptop. The problem I'm having is I'm trying to get Entargos installed, and even in the live boot, the cursor is always stuck in the upper left corner, and after installing it at the hard drive, it will not boot at all. I've tried Debian and other distros with same issues. I've even tried Manjaro, and it was no better. Can you help? So I worked with Mark, for a little bit, basic things like try no mode set and stuff like that. And I was not able to help him through a couple of emails back and forth. So I thought I'd throw it in the feedback segment and see if there's anyone out there that I'm sure there's somebody else out there that has brought an Oryx and put an Entargos on it. So if you have Entargos working on a System 76 Oryx, if you could let Mark know, again, shoot us an email, use the contact link, tweet it at us. I don't care, but let us know how you got it to work so that I can pass that information on to Mark. He would appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't know if I know anybody running Arch on an Oryx now that I think about it.
Entargos.
Yeah. Do you know anybody doing it? Your dad has one.
Yeah, I installed Entargos on the Oryx and tried it on there for a little bit, and it worked just fine for me. So I'm not exactly sure what was going on. But
all right. Well, like Noah said, you can get a hold of us at the contact form. You can also watch us live and hang out and interact in our chat room over at jblive.tv. We do this show usually on Sundays around noon Pacific, but you can get it converted to your local time at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. And if you hung out today, you could watch us with SIP's shenanigans. I should mention at patreon.com/JupiterSignal, where not only do you get access to the live stream, but you support the entire frickin' network, which we appreciate very, very much. You could watch the whole version of Last, the unedited part where we spent 40 minutes troubleshooting SIP, and sometimes that's actually enjoyable to watch. So if you're a patron or you are inclined to sign up, you can get access to it, not only to this episode, but all of the previous ones at patreon.com/JupiterSignal. And I try to get it up within, 15 minutes to an hour after last, which means
fast.
You can get it really fast.
It's fast. It's before I get home. It's usually before I get all wrapped up and get packed out of here.
Yeah.
It's usually available by the time I get home. Yep.
The only thing that sometimes happens, like if we have a network issue or YouTube has a server-side issue, it can cause delay. Or if we really violate copyright during the live stream, because we kind of cut loose during the live stream, then YouTube will potentially take it down. So there's always that too. So, Mr. Colonel Linux, where should people find you throughout the week?
At Kernel Linux, as well as at Altispeed is our company Twitter handle. And so trying to tweet more and more stuff out. You can follow us both of those places.
Well done, sir. You can follow me at Chris LAS, the network at Jupiter Signal, and check out the vlog I do at YouTube. At YouTube? No. I guess it would be youtube.com/Chris Fisher, which is my name, Chris Fisher. See that? See how I did that? Yeah? Very clever. All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, and we'll probably see you right back here next week. All right. Are we ready for episode 455 of the Linux Action Show? Now, chat room, please bang suggest as we go. We need you to title this one. Predominantly coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action. Yep.
Did you know that your hair bounces when you do that? Yeah. Okay.
It's probably
Just
going to collapse at some point because it's supposed to be up here. The hair is, it's supposed to be, but it's slowly, it's supposed to be up here. Like, so here, it's supposed to be up here like this, but it's starting to do that. You see? So it is getting time to cut it because it's starting to collapse in on itself. It's starting to double.
It's no good.
Yeah, then pretty soon it turns into a hat.
I don't have any Coke here. I would actually like Coke, but I don't have any here.
I saw one in the video last night.
Yeah.
There was a rumor going around the studio that you'd given up on Coca-Cola. There was a rumor going around, but then I saw the Coke and I was like, well, Noah added himself. He's still drinking Coke.
I was going to say, who's dumb enough to believe that?
Oh, that's mean. All right.
You give up on Coke, really?
Oh, I'm ready for this to not be a thing. Stupid sinuses. I'm going to punch my sinuses in the face, dude. I'm sick of it. Okay. All right, here we go.
Right,
and that brings us... Jeez. Way to go, Noah. Right?
Sure.
Right? What a jerk.
Noob.
What a noob. What a...
Fight me at land, bro.